Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, our guest today is an international life, business, and relationship coach, integrative naturopathic physician, master NLP practitioner, and the author of 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. He works with leaders and high performers from all walks of life, including world champion athletes, best-selling authors, entrepreneurs, and business professionals to create an extraordinary life without regret. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jamil Sayegh.
Thank you so much, Mike. Happy to be with you all today.
Man, this is awesome. We've been talking about doing this for a while. A lot of times when I prepare for a guest or I get someone on the show, obviously there's kind of a lead up to it because I have so many people queued up for the show. And so we've had a couple candid conversations and it's been a wild ride getting here. So I've been probably more excited to have this interview than you even realized. And it's because of the value I know you're about to deliver to our audience. No pressure.
No pressure at all. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
And everyone, thank you. And everyone for tuning in. I want you to check out Jamil's website because there's a lot of information. And usually I rattle off all the social. I'm going to have it on the bottom of the screen. Or it's all clickable. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or any of the other platforms that we're on, you can click right to his website. It's spelled JamilSayegh.com. Again, JamilSayegh.com. It's Dr. Jamil Sayegh. Again, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, man.
Let me get everything cleaned up here so I don't have all the pinging in the background so we can focus. What I'd like us to do right out of the gate is tell your family story. It's an incredible one. It's what inspired you in many ways to be doing what you're doing now, and it's a connection that you had to your father. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, man, I'd be happy to. And so, this was the most influential experience in many respects in my life, and it got me really started in this. Not in the work. I've been a coach for 16 years now, and about when I was 19, so 11 years ago. My dad, I was in my sophomore year in undergrad at Fordham University in the Bronx, if anyone's familiar. And while I was in my second year, I remember this medical group I was in, like a pre-med group. And every year we have to kind of fight for the funding, to keep the funding, And so they would say, hey, would you mind coming up to Albany this weekend and, speaking about your experience in the program and everything? And I said, yeah, sure. So it's Wednesday when I tell them that. We're leaving on Friday and we're going to come back Sunday night. And Thursday rolls around and I start getting this feeling, something's wrong. Don't go. And I had no idea what that was. And I start feeling I'm getting this vibe, not to go. And I was ignoring it because I was telling myself, I already said yes. Like I can't back out. And Thursday night rolls around and it feels really strong. And so to the point where I felt like I couldn't ignore it, even though I didn't really know why I was feeling it. So I messaged them and I said, hey, I'm really sorry. Something came up. They had a bunch of other students going. So I figured it'd be okay. And I said, I can't make it. So Friday comes around. They all go. I'm home and it's fine. Saturday happens. Nothing happens. And then Sunday, I wake up in the morning on Sunday and just to give you some context, my dad was 49 years old.
Yeah.
He had 2 heart attacks in his 30s, started smoking when he was an early teenager, a lot of stress in his life. And from those perspectives, you'd imagine his wife would be concerned about him, And so oftentimes, let's say he's a physician himself and he would get these giant medical kind of magazines in the mail and he would read those in the bathroom. And so if he was in there, every now and then my mom would knock, hey, is everything okay? Because she experienced heart attacks and all these different things, and she was always concerned about him.
Sure.
And normally, yeah, everything's fine, and that's it. And so it's like 9 in the morning, and I come downstairs, and I'm having some drink of water, and I hear her knock on the door, and nothing out of the ordinary. But then she knocks again, and then she knocks again, and now it's like a rabbit. Kind of my ears go up, you know, and I'm thinking, I go downstairs, and you know, she's hitting the door pretty hard, and he's not answering. So then I start like slamming on the door, and he's not answering, and obviously the fan's not that loud that's in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the door is locked, of course. And I try to go outside to a window to see if I can get it open, and I couldn't. And I go back in, and it was just pure adrenaline. I broke the door.
Yeah.
And, you know,
he was you kicked the door in at that point?
It wasn't that like Hulk. It was more like a Hulk smash kind of thing. And
yeah. Wow.
broke my way in, and
wow.
Yeah, he was unconscious. And next thing you know, we're in the hospital, and he had a brain aneurysm. And for anyone who's not familiar, imagine one of the blood vessels in your brain. Think of it like a tube. And if it starts to balloon out, like kind of like an outgrowth of the tube, right? It balloons out. And if you're fortunate, you have a really bad headache. And you go to the hospital, they take care of it, and you'll be okay. But with my dad, he wasn't as fortunate, and his aneurysm ruptured. And so he was in a 4-hour brain surgery, and we were told the survival rate was less than 5%. And, you know, those 4 hours, you can imagine, felt like 50 in terms of waiting for that. And after the surgery, you know, the neurosurgeon said it was the worst aneurysm he'd ever seen.
Oh my God.
And he survived. And he was in a coma, and it was already, you know, the miracle, because less than 5% chance. And at the same time, you know, he was in a coma in this really critical space, and we were told he could die at any moment. And to give some context, you know, my dad he was a family practice physician, like I said, but he was also one of the top Elvis impersonators in the world.
No kidding.
And, yeah. Music was his passion. He's literally toured the world with Elvis's band. Like, he's done all that stuff. And,
oh my gosh.
You know, he would always say, you know, my colleagues have golf, I have Elvis. You know, he would do these giant shows for the hospitals and bring in like 30 to 50 grand, like in a night for charity. And it was really wonderful to, you know, grow up with that. And so I walk into the room, and here's this man who's such a larger than life kind of presence and such a beautiful heart. And he's unconscious in a coma, and he's got like his head is shaved, and it's like a train hit him, you know? And I sat there thinking two things. The first, there was this feeling of helplessness because I was 19 and I want to do something to help. Like, this is my dad. I want to do something to make the situation better. And I felt like all I could do is wait. All I could do is watch. But because I'm being told he might die at any time, we're just looking at the little monitors, seeing
what's happening
still here. You know, we have no idea what's about to happen. And then the second emotion that came up was this feeling of regret. There was immense regret because I felt like I took my dad for granted. I felt like I didn't have the relationship with him that I could have had. And there was this feeling of, you know, I messed up. You know, I was 19, and my priorities, track, I was a runner, so track, so athletics, video games, movies, being with my friends, like that was my thought process. And it was like, oh, you know, he's 49. I'll have 30, 40, 50 more years with him. You know, there's a quote by the Buddha. Well, it's attributed to the Buddha. Who knows if he actually said it? But it just basically is, the problem is you think you have time.
Yeah.
And then there's a Dalai Lama quote that comes up whenever I share this story, where he says, everyone lives as if they're never going to die, and then they die having never really lived. This life of kind of putting things off until tomorrow, as we think we have time, if we're going to connect the two quotes. And so in a way I was doing that. And now it felt like I'm never going to have that chance to really get to know him in a deeper level. You know, I was really fortunate that, you know, great, I loved him, he loved me. We would usually have dinner together, but outside of that, he was always working. I was in school. And then before and after dinner, you know, homework, games, whatever it was, I'm not with him. And so we didn't really connect in that way. And so fast forward, you know, he survived another 3 years, and then he eventually passed away. And in those 3 years, I really had, you know, my prayers answered, because I took 2 years off after college to be one of his primary caregivers. And I got to spend, you know, 10, 12, 15 hours a day with him. And over time, you know, it's a lot of work, but over time we helped him make almost a full recovery, which was unheard of. Whenever we went to the hospital just to kind of get checkups and stuff for him, completely like everyone in the hospital, a giant smile on their face. Like this guy like is the one who probably shouldn't be alive.
Just unbelievable.
And he's doing so well. And in many respects,
I'd like to interject real quick. I just want to say something too, not to interrupt the story. This is one of the most incredible stories I've had on the show, and we've had plenty of them. The fact that I just want to make sure we don't overlook the whole story here. The part that you had this feeling in your heart, something in your soul, something in the energy in the universe, whether it was God or whatever that force you felt in your heart said you got to be available for some reason this weekend, or you just felt something, and it ends up being you kicking in or breaking through the door to who knows, your dad could have been in there longer, your mom would have struggled to get that door if you weren't home. Seconds of time are so important in that situation. You happen to be home for it because of your intuition. Then you have this moment, and man, I just want to say, you were 19. You were doing incredible things in school, track, all this other stuff. You were being a 19-year-old, and I know this was a few years ago now. And I just recently lost my father, and I've had very similar feelings of, I don't even know if it's taken it for granted or just clearly not spent. Like, I feel I did not spend as much one-on-one time with my dad as I could have and should have. So I totally get that feeling. I was 34. I'm 34 now. Passed away a few weeks ago. So you were 19, man. I don't know if you ever reflected on that. I really don't believe you were doing anything wrong. You were being a 19-year-old that had to take care of school, stuff after school. Your dad would have wanted you to do all that stuff anyways. I'm sure he was proud of you. But then you get this incredible, the reason I wanted to interject the story at this point, you get this incredible opportunity where he had 3 more years. And because you had that realization, you were able to be a different version of yourself as a caregiver for your dad. And I'm interested I wonder what kind of insights your dad as a doctor that also passed along to you today. And did that whole situation make you, I think I know the answer to this, kind of rhetorical. How much of a greater person are you today because you got 3 quality years with your dad? He was able to probably pass the torch. I want you to tell that part of it. But let's reflect on the as crazy as turmoil and devastation is, there's some inner beauty in that story. I just want to make sure we didn't overlook that.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for sharing what you said. I've definitely reflected on it in many, many times. And again, my sincerest condolences to you and your family for your dad. And in that time frame, I mentioned in those 3 years, I got to spend a lot of time with him. And in some respects, it was absolutely beautiful, like the highest highs. We were laughing. We both were musicians in a sense. Like I would sing, he would sing. He's a drummer since he was a baby, essentially a little drum pad. He was all state, all county. Like music was his thing. And we really connected. Physical therapy, we're boxing each other. We were doing great. And but at the same time, there were some really big lows. And in those moments, because of the aneurysm, he had short-term memory loss. And he also was prone to seizures. And he was in a space where someone always had to be with him. Like you couldn't leave him alone because he might lose his balance. He might hit his head. Like, someone always had to be there. And anyone who's listening who stepped into the role of a primary caregiver, it taxes you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It can be really exhausting because you're basically having to fully be present for another person nonstop.
Right.
And there were moments where it was his birthday and we did something that we knew he would love, and he did. And then 2 hours went by and then he completely forgot about the whole day. And those moments were where there was like this realization, that life is different now. And this realization that
frustration because you can't control or help him. You're like, oh,
yeah. So there was frustration.
Memory of this amazing moment. I want to help you get it back. And we're human. We're not able to do that.
Yeah. And there was also just frustration from just ego perspective of we wanted him back the way he was, and he was getting better. But every time that happened, it was that reminder that maybe it won't happen. And, that emotionally didn't feel great. And, there was a moment where he forgot who I was. And I was arguing with him that I wasn't his nephew. And I remember, obviously it's not his fault. And, but just in that moment, it was very difficult. And there was many moments where he had seizures, and it was seizures usually they look violent, but usually nothing really bad is happening. You just got to kind of watch and wait. You make sure they're okay. But usually they're, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. Like he would have 5-minute seizures, 3-minute seizures. And
Oh
it's
my
like a
God.
200 something pound guy standing up completely in my arms, and it was tough. And many,
Mm,
many moments where we thought he wouldn't make it and he would pass away. And I'm getting to certain lessons, as you talked about. At the end of the 3 years, he passed away. And
mhm,
similar to yourself in what the story you shared with me before we got on the air, it was very sudden. We didn't see it
mhm,
coming at all with the aneurysm at 19 and when he passed when I was 22. Like neither time was, we didn't see it coming at all. And after he passed away, I remember being at his wake, and it was 5 hours. I was right next to the casket the whole time. I shook everyone's hand, and over 7,000 people came. And almost everyone said, "Your dad saved my life."
mm,
And I saw people from different cultures, different religions asking if they can pray and pay their respects in their own way over the casket. And it was deeply, deeply beautiful to see the impact that he had. And it was
mhm,
very humbling because most of these people hadn't seen him since he was 49 or younger. And a
mm,
lot of them were his patients. A lot of them were people in the community, musician friends, all that kind of stuff, all walks of life. It was like a never ending line.
mm,
And it was absolutely beautiful. But there was also an insight that I had been playing small in my own life, and that I was afraid of rejection, and that I
mm,
cared way too much about what other people thought about me. And that the way I look at it, I feel like each of us have this divine spark within us. Each of us have this light that we can shine in the world that's representative of our true selves, the impact that only we can actually have because you are unique. There is no one else like you. No one has your life experience. No one has the exact vision and dream that you have, all these type of things. And I had that light like we all do, and I was dimming it because
mm,
I was afraid of that judgment. I was afraid of, oh, what if they don't like me? You know?
mm.
In that moment, it was like a light switch, never again, screw that.
It's like the shackles of other people are
Yeah.
on you, and they like it. Just I know the feeling, and
Yeah.
I don't know what percentage is, but I know it's a high percentage of people, especially in the social media world. Of got you got to see how many likes you get and everything else. It's very much a comparison society we live in right now, and it's so freeing when you truly only care about yourself and what you can do in the world, and not what other people think about you, unless maybe it's like a parent or sibling or child or something where it's like a personal thing, but like where someone's judging you in some way, right?
Yeah.
um it's shackling to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so once that light switch moment occurred, and it was like this never again, I'm going to be me,
mhm,
that made such a massive impact on my life. And, I spent the next year staying at home for the most part, maybe 8 months to a year with the family, and just kind of recovering together as a unit. And my family was incredible, not only like my mom and my sister, but uncles, aunts, cousins. Like they were so supportive, not only for us, but for my dad when he was still alive. And
mhm,
as I look back to see how that experience impacted me, it really turned me onto the value and the miracle that is this moment,
mhm,
and the miracle of life that you're even listening to this now, that you're alive today. If you woke up today, that's something 150,000 people can't say they did
mhm,
every day. If you woke up today, you already hit the lotto. You already won. If you woke
mhm.
up today and the people that you care about most happen to wake up also, then oh my God, you can't get better than that.
Yeah.
But when we take that for granted and we think that something, I use the word extraordinary life, but to think without regret, kind of in what I want, what I do, at the same time, extraordinary, like beyond the ordinary,
Mhm,
also know that the ordinary is the extraordinary.
mhm.
And a lot of people miss that. And they think that, oh, something out of the ordinary needs to happen for me to be happy.
Meaning something simple is much as waking up in the morning, just being able to put 2 feet on the ground, get yourself dressed, get a glass of water because we have easy access to water in this country. It
Yeah.
also gets overlooked easily. Being able to buy a $5 cup of coffee from Starbucks on your way to work, whatever. These little simple things are just like a part of life that really, like you said, what would you do to spend one more hour with your dad? The questions like that people they're like, okay, dad, talk to you later. And it's like, man, don't you think you could have given him a little bit more of your time today? For the people that have a everyday relationship with their family because they're there, they're alive, they're healthy. I think
Beautiful,
it's always
beautiful.
really good to live in gratitude. That's another tag you see a lot, is be great and be grateful, coming from me. Many people on my show, some of them have gratitude journals published, all kinds of cool stuff. I know you're a guy who consistently is living in gratitude, and I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, to your own point, most people, we take the little things for granted when the little things are really the big things.
Hmm.
And if you think about some of the top regrets of people as they get older,
Hmm.
I didn't share with the people that I love, how much I love them. I didn't live a life true to myself. I lived somebody else's version of my life.
Hmm.
Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I made it about money, not about happiness. Maybe, there's all these different versions of it. But the thing is, if you look at your life right now and you see, if I did, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, however old someone is when they're listening to this, if I did live a life that I would regret, what could my regrets possibly be? And if you spend an hour with yourself and you just journal
Hmm.
that out, now you have the blueprint of what not to do.
Yeah.
And now you can make better choices in this moment to
Yeah.
create the life that you want. Because the thing is, when I was 19, this all kind of started. But two of my cousins in those 3-year period from 19 to 22, while my dad was still alive, two of them passed away. One was 20 and one was 21.
Wow.
And if you were to speak to either of those men when they were, let's say, 18, and you say,
Mhm.
tell me about your life in the future, I bet you everything I've got, neither one would say I'd be dead in less than 5 years.
Sure.
And from that perspective, there might be someone listening to this who thinks they're young and invincible. You could
Mhm.
have the greatest organic diet. You could be exercising all the time. You could be sleeping. But when you're out on that morning run, that drunk driver doesn't care. And
Right.
from that perspective, you never know what could happen. I don't want that to happen to you, but it's
Mhm.
possible. So from that place, are you actually living every single day as if it's your last? People think that's
Mhm.
like a cliche thing. Like Steve Jobs has this commencement speech at Stanford, and
Yeah.
there's a line that he says, every day I wake up and I look in the mirror and I ask myself, if today was my last day on this earth, what I want to do what I'm about to do. And
Mhm.
if the answer is no, too many days in a row, I know I need to do something different.
It's so good. Yeah, it's not a cliche. People who are listening to this taking themselves, their business, their family, seriously, that there's no blink to that being a cliche. You might see it in a quote and it looks cute on social media, but it's absolutely true. I lost two family members in 2020, my grandma, my dad. And, again, my dad was more surprising of the two because my grandmother was in her late 80s. My father was only 69. I've lost other friends and family a lot younger than that as well, that we had no idea. Like you're saying, the healthy diet, person, the family that's got the best health might be someone who just gets robbed some other way with their health, or with the, cancer can come and get anybody. And also, like you said, the drunk driver situation, or you just hear stories and you go, man, why did that happen to this person? It's
Yeah.
crazy. A lot of them are told on the show as well from other guests. But again, just to hit home on that, think and reflect about what I'm doing today from the time I get up until I go to sleep. Is that something I'm proud of? Am I on purpose? Does it only serve me? That's something I ask myself a lot. Is like, if I'm doing this and 20 years from now I'm extremely wealthy, right? We talked about don't think that we got 20 years, right? Like, live in the moment. But if you're living to build some kind of big legacy, is it your legacy just for you, or what impact does it actually have? Because I feel that we're all on this planet. We all have an opportunity to connect with one another, different cultures, even. Everybody is on the same planet. We have the opportunity now with technology to connect all over the place, make a difference, not only in your backyard, but anywhere.
Something
And
to,
I actually just want to say, I feel responsible that I have an opportunity on this planet, a responsibility to do something more outward than just solo, if that makes sense. So,
yeah. And something that I want to just make sure I bring in,
mhm.
sometimes people misunderstand what I'm sharing in the sense that they think, oh, I can't just, live in the moment. This is the thing. It's a combination of, you plan for the future. You get
Mhm.
crystal clear what that life looks like, that extraordinary life without regret, where you would go to sleep at night and when your head hits the pillow, if I told you you're not waking up tomorrow, you would be at peace. You'd be able to think, wow, what a ride. I lived my life. Even if there might have been more things I wanted to do, the life that I had was spectacular because I made it that way. I really lived. I didn't just exist. So from that place, you get really clear, what's that life I want to live in the future? But then you come back into this moment, and with the plan in mind, you live fully now. Like some people think, oh, live as if like today was your last day is like some irresponsible thing because they think, well, what about the future and what about the planning? Yeah, do that too. But don't do what most people do where they're in the moment thinking about the future or thinking about the past and they're not living now.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden,
you got to have both in place. You got to have a plan in place, and you have to be active in the moment.
Yeah, because if you're not active in the moment, the way I think about it is this. If we're really honest with ourselves, because most people don't think in the way that I'm about to share, the past and the future don't exist. The past and the future are concepts. They only exist in your mind. And when you think about the past, when are you thinking about it? Now. When you think about the future, when are you thinking about it? Now. When you think about the past, it's just memory. When you think about the future, it's imagination. Both are illusions. Neither exists. So the reason why that's powerful is in this moment, you only ever have this moment. Most people, what they do is they create their future from their past. Meaning, this is what life has been like up until this point. This is kind of the kind of person I've been. So then they just project that out into the future and they say, well, that's probably how the future is going to be. And they keep acting a similar way. So then their future is not that different from their past.
Yeah.
But people
they keep living the same day, the same month, the same year. I mean, you could see someone when they're 35 and they kind of relive the same year. You see them when they're 45 and they're almost the same identical person. They haven't learned or grown or developed much because they're either thinking too much about the past or something. They're just in that, they're not maybe challenging themselves enough or reflecting enough on what they actually want. And if it requires change, to do the change.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot. I see people that are kind of the same like if you met me 10 years ago, I'm completely different than I am today because of all the crazy development, growth, good, bad, and ugly that has happened to me over 10 years. I'm continuing to reach up, and that's not a pat on the back. I'm not even close to where I want to go, obviously. And I'm just saying, I know that there's these steps internally that I need to take to get there. You cannot be the same person. When there's that quote again, I think that's Einstein, expects, what is the quote? Help me out.
Yeah, the Einstein quote is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, exactly.
And to your point about this future, this different version of you than 10 years ago, what is the difference for everyone listening between you right now and that future you in your mind that is, let's say, really successful in by your own definition and living this life that you'd love to live? The difference is the identity that version of you has taken on, the beliefs that person of you has, and the actions that person takes, and the skills that you've developed. Those are the only differences. And so the question,
again, identity, beliefs,
action, and skills.
Action and skills.
And skills are developed. You train those. Actions are choices that you choose to take. Beliefs are thoughts that you consistently think and buy into. And identity is who you choose to be, how you see yourself. Because I said most people create their future from their past versus create your future from your future. Close your eyes and get really clear. What kind of man, what kind of woman, what kind of person do I want to be? And then see it. See exactly how you would show up, how you would treat people, what kind of actions you would take. Let's say you would be courageous, you'd be confident, whatever the case may be. You see the qualities, the characteristics. And then you come back to this moment from this mindset of you have the blueprint now of who you need to be that version of you, and then start being that version of you now. Right. And immediately what happens is your future will be completely different than your past.
Yeah.
Because you're not being that version of you anymore. It has to be different because the input is different. The output will be different. It can't be any other way. But most people buy into the story, the illusion that their personality is real. Your personality is an illusion.
It's created, right?
Yeah, it's created moment by moment by moment. People think it's static. People think, they tell themselves.
Almost like if you're in a bad movie and you want to say, can I pull myself out as a protagonist and put me over here? We can do that.
Yeah.
The story that we're telling that will be told someday from front to end, we're in it, but we have a lot more control. We're like, when there's an actor who's also the writer, director, and producer, that's what we are in life.
Yeah.
Now, not to say that other things don't come into it, and there's God and all these other things that come together in there, right? But my point is, like, we actually are the protagonist and also the writer and director of the movie. Go and change your paradigms if you're not happy with what you're in. Can you talk about that you were getting into visualization where people are seeing it and then doing it? Because I know, and you focus on top performing athletes. Michael Phelps is one of them. He visualizes his exact day on a competition from everything he's going to do from morning until he's being handed the gold.
Yep.
Talk about the importance of that.
Absolutely. One point I want to just bring in is to kind of close up that thought before, that when it comes to people think their personality is static. In business, some of the words that are a sure sign of impending like death, this is how we've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
That leads to a lack of innovation, and then you get passed by. In life, that's just who I am. That's not true. That's a story that you're buying into. That's who you've chosen to be, and you've conditioned yourself to be that enough times that it's become unconscious.
Or other people have told you that's who you are, and you start to believe it.
Yeah, and you start to believe it. And so when you recognize that who you actually are is this moment, who you actually are has nothing to do with the past. Alan Watts, he's a famous philosopher, I think from like the 40s, amazing guy. And he says, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. You can absolutely be completely different in an instant, just by choosing to be. It might be uncomfortable, it might be unfamiliar because you haven't done it, but you can change that. And so that was, just keep in mind, create your future based on who you want to be by choosing what that person would do now. That's how you make your future what you want it to be. And because life in the physical world, there's a time delay, you can act like that person now, but the results that person has created will take some time.
Yeah.
So not getting discouraged, oh, well, I've been acting like my future self for 2 days. How come I don't have the $1 million company?
Yeah.
It obviously takes time to manifest in that sense, but who you're being sets the stage and brings things in motion.
Let's take it to the next step. Talk about manifestation. Is that something you believe in, the law of attraction?
Well, yes, but not in the way that I think a lot of people discuss it. I think it, like many things in medicine, in life, I think we make things like oversimplified. Sure. Where like there is truth to it, but in the way it's commonly presented, it's not that simple. It's not like black and white. It's more like gray. And this ties into what you said, the Michael Phelps question. All essentially, there's probably some exceptions, but virtually all high performers do something called mental rehearsal. Meaning your mind doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what you've actually experienced. They've done MRI studies where the same areas of your brain like light up when you imagine doing the task as when you actually do it. An athlete has, certain nodes on them to check their muscles out. And just by thinking about taking the action, the muscles are primed. They like get ready. Your thoughts play such an important role. And so when you close your eyes, I actually have a story about this that can apply. The first time I gave a speech publicly, there was 200 people. And I remember I wrote it. I was ready for it. I prepared. And it was the night before. And I had just, I memorized the whole thing and I knew it cold. I could say this 50 times without blinking. So what I did is I was in med school. I had this little IKEA futon and I like walk up to it and I close my eyes and I basically say, all right, when I open my eyes, I'm going to see 200 people on my IKEA couch and they're all staring at me and I'm giving my presentation to them. And I had just said this speech like 10 times with no issue. And right when I'm like, all right, I got it. I open my eyes. I see them all there. I like project them out, from my mind. I see them all there. I start. Within 5 seconds, I mess up. I forget my words and my hands start sweating. And my heart's like pounding. And I started laughing. And I was like, this is incredible because notice that there's no one on the couch. Yeah. I did that to myself just with my thinking. And that's what most of us do all the time. You get in your own way because of your thinking that you have that basically scares the crap out of you. Yeah. And so in that moment, I was like, all right, let me back off, close my eyes. I see them again. And then I kept doing it. And then eventually I started having fun with it where if anyone saw me from like my balcony, like window, they'd be like, what's that guy doing? I'm like pointing at people on the couch that don't exist. I'm like laughing. And I was having such
You're in the world of seeing.
Yeah, I was going back and forth, pacing around the room. But that next day, when I gave that performance, the amount of people that approached me after saying, that was incredible. Like, when did you start speaking? How often have you been doing it? And I said that was the first time I've ever done it. And they looked at me like, and everyone's like, but the other people who spoke are like behind a podium. I'm like walking throughout the audience. I was like enjoying it. And I just stepped into it fully.
You were like, how am I supposed to do this? You were doing it as if you're already like the next thing that you
and that's the thing though. I was doing it as if I'd already done it, because mentally I'd already done it 100 times at least. Because your mind doesn't know that difference. I told myself, I've already done this. This is done. Like it's happened. And I actually, because I've done it mentally, in a sense, it's like saying I have proof mentally that I can do it because I've already done it. I haven't done it in the physical world, but it doesn't really matter if you show up as if you have. And it's not fake it till you make it. I wasn't faking it. I was being it. Like it's being it, and then it shows up. And so that's the mental side. Now, there was a question that you asked that I'm blanking on now right before. Do you remember? It was like
law of attraction.
Yes, thank you. So manifestation, law of attraction, the aspect of it that I'm not a believer in is the way that a lot of people take it, which I don't think is what it actually is. But people say, oh, I'm on my couch and I want like the $10 million. And I just sit there and I think about it and I feel it and it'll just show up in the mail. No, obviously it's not how it's going to work. There are people that actually take it that way. So from that perspective, I don't believe in that. But I believe in that there's the word revenue comes from revenir, and revenir means the return flow. Now, in order for you to have a return flow, what has to happen first? Something needs to come out of you. If it's going to return, it has to come out first, right? Yeah. And so that which comes to you is the reflection of what goes out of you. And so from a law of attraction perspective, or a law of resonance, law of vibration kind of perspective, those are other laws that some people talk about that aren't as like well known. Everything in the universe is energy. Everything, let's say, is frequency. It's all vibrating. And somebody might even feel that. You see someone, I got a weird vibe from that person, or I got a really good vibe from this person. I don't even know anything about them. I haven't spoken to them, but I just got a feeling when I'm around them. Yeah. And when you're in a certain energetic state, let's say you're feeling really happy, excited, blissful, enthusiastic, that feels a certain way. But when you're feeling really depressed and sad and envious and all that kind of stuff and angry, that feels a certain way. So from that perspective, think of it like a vibratory state. If you are vibrating at a frequency that will attract other people and other experiences that want to be around you, because they're like kind of like, it's resonance, kind of like in music, right? Yeah. You play a certain string in a store and like they all vibrate at the same frequency. If you pluck C, they all go on C, same kind of thing. And so from my perspective, if you want to use the law of attraction, get crystal clear the kind of person you need to be, because you always go first. Life is 50-50, but you go first. And most people wait for life to go first. Life is always responding to you in the moment. So if you get crystal clear, all right, I want to have this level of success. All right, what kind of person would you need to be? How would people need to feel in your presence? What kind of actions would you need to take? And you start putting all that into motion. There's a quote that I don't remember who said it, but the idea being, oh yeah, like, I believe in luck. The harder that I work, the luckier I seem to get. And it's like people think luck, luck is a thing. You could be in the right place at the right time. But if you don't have the skill set to back it up, then it's not going to be like a repeat performance. It's going to be
or you could lose it. Like if you literally tripped over a bag of $1 million and you're not a really well-versed person how to make that money work for you or multiply it, you're going to have it and it's going to be gone at some point because you're not actually doing practices that are going to help you turn that into something. So I think, again, luck is when opportunity meets, when hard work, preparation and opportunity, right, come together. Totally agree. I think that is a better definition of luck. Or if someone spoon-fed something, you see that commonly with like a second generation celebrity or entrepreneur or something, where that the second generation doesn't have all the knowledge and insight and actually being out in the field of doing what their mom or dad did. And so they get kind of handed it. I don't want to name names, but there's someone that I'm thinking of even had a music career at one point because something that her father had just allowed her to do whatever she wanted to. And her music career was a flash in the pan kind of a thing because You know, you probably know who I'm talking about. But my point
But
in
I
saying that is like because they didn't grow up writing songs in a journal from 5 years old and performing at dive bars in front of 3 people and like having what it actually takes to be a successful, like, you know, like talk about Elvis or someone that's just got that it factor of being a musician and captivating an audience. And it's like things that grow from within someone, not just handed to you. That was a
yeah.
little bit of a tangent, but I love that you said that about law of attraction
And
because I
one thing to add,
completely see it the same way.
yeah, and just to add, when somebody is thinking about who they're showing up as, which again, normally we don't think about that, but it's like how I'm actually showing up in the world, who I'm being.
Hmm.
That's what's going to attract to you what it is that you want. And there's a distinction that I hope everyone takes from this, which is you can do something to get happy, or you can do something happily. And notice the difference because I just gave a talk last night, a beautiful real estate event about how to achieve your goals in 2021 and beyond. And there's an aspect of the talk where I got into that where I got into that topic, and it's how are you? It's fine. I just like lost my train of thought as I was saying that. So give me one moment. Let me just pull that back.
Sure.
Got it. Yeah. You can do something happily or you can do something to get happy. And one of the biggest traps people fall into is I'll be happy when. I'll be
Yeah.
successful when. I'll be good enough when. All these things, when I get the promotion, when I make the money, when I build the business to a certain size, whatever the case may be, unfortunately, I can show you in an instant why that's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
There are millionaires and billionaires who have everything that you think you need to be happy, and they're not happy.
Crazy.
There's people that do have all those things and they are happy. There's people who have none of those things and they're ecstatically happy. And there's people who have none of those things and they're miserable.
Right.
Now, why? Because it's got nothing to do with the external world. It's got nothing to do with the amount of money you have. It's got nothing to do with all these things. That doesn't mean money is important. Money's valuable. Money serves a purpose. I'm not saying it doesn't count, but I'm saying that your emotional state has nothing to do with it. Your emotional state has to do with the stories that you tell yourself.
Right.
So if you make this distinction between, going back to law of attraction, whatever you practice, you get good at. If you're miserable doing what you're doing, you're practicing misery. So you're going to get good at being miserable. And you're going to attract more experiences into your life of misery because that's what you're putting out. You're being in a miserable state. But if you decide I'm going to do things happily, I'm going to enjoy my process because the goal, the vision, whatever I'm working towards, I really want that. And so because I want that and I'm enjoying the day by day, the process of it, I'm enjoying it. I'm excited. I've got this good feel, good vibe. I'm going to be more open to opportunity because whatever you look for, you find. And so if I'm looking for problems, I find them. If I'm looking for problems, I find them. If I'm looking for opportunities, I find them because they're always there.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, and then because I'm doing it happily, people who engage with me go, I feel good around this guy. I like being with this person. So then they offer me more opportunity.
Yeah.
Like that to me is that law of attraction.
It's that energy, that given energy. Dude, that last 5 minutes, I don't mean this disrespectful to any other guest, but I feel like that last 5 minutes was the best meat right there. Go back, guys. If you're listening to this, repeat or go back and rewind it about 5 minutes. I'm glad you took that second to make sure you can unlock. It almost like I saw your brain, and the younger crowd won't even understand this, like rewinding like an old VHS tape. Like you had to figure out what was I trying to do? But so true. People have a poverty mindset, some of them, and they actually could be successful people if they unlock their potential through simply changing their beliefs in themselves and start to think about that better version of themselves and telling themselves that story, creating the story through their actions, visualizing it, taking actions on it, and then believing they can get there and focusing their energy so their vibrations is on the what I can achieve and not on the I hate myself right now because I'm not where I want to be. Oh, if I get this, that, or the other thing, that's when I'll be happy. And they're stuck down here like at this low vibration. And one thing I wanted to add to that is I've been around people who are like, man, that guy was the best. Like he was such a good, like just did you hear him? Did you see what he was saying? And like the person barely talked. They just sat there and were a great listener with great energy. And the vibe that they were giving off was just electric. And they barely did anything, but they just were being a genuine good. And they're like, wow, that was the best conversation I ever had. And all the person did was talk 90% of the time.
Yeah, and think about this for anyone who's listening who I don't ever get caught up on labels and
Mm,
concepts. I don't care what you call it, law of attraction, law of anything. You might think that's all BS, and that's
mhm,
cool. But let me just ask anyone who's questioning this kind of stuff. When you look at your own life,
mhm.
would you perform better and feel better when you're in a state of gratitude and excitement and appreciation and enthusiasm and joy? Or would you perform better when you're depressed and angry and frustrated? Obviously, you're going to perform better. You're going to show up better in the grateful, appreciative, enthusiastic, joyful state. Now, from that place, is it more likely that certain opportunities will be noticed, that you'll be given certain opportunities, and that you'll just have a better, more quality experience of your moment to moment, day to day life?
Mhm.
Yes, that is what we're talking about. Like when you're in that state, life happens to just work for you. It works really
Yeah.
well. And when you're not in that state, it gets unfortunate because you kind of become a crap magnet. And it's not because it's you.
Wow,
There's no
that's so
such
good.
thing as there's no such thing as successful people and unsuccessful people because it's not like, oh, I'm an unsuccessful person. It's who I am.
Mhm,
Everyone is the same. And then from that place, who are you choosing to be in
mhm.
this moment? You could have been, you said a lot of people have a poverty mindset. You can
Sure.
choose to have that. It might be unconscious as a choice. Once
Right.
you're aware you have it, do you want to keep choosing it?
Yeah,
Or you
awareness is the
choose
key
to change
because
it?
without awareness or realizing it, then how can you ever change something in life? So being aware,
Yeah.
realizing it, you can change it. Yep.
Yes. I just want to say that because a lot of people think, going back to the personality is not permanent. If you buy into, oh, yeah, that's a successful person, there's this mindset or potentially an implication that that person's different from me. They were born that way, or they got this, they got this. It's like, no, we're all born at different places, but
Mhm.
there's people at every rung of the ladder who have made it massively big and successful. And if they can do it, you can do it. And it's all about
Exactly.
showing up in a way that would best serve you. Stop
Yeah.
comparing yourself to other people, run your race, get really
Mhm,
clear on what the life you want to live is, and
mhm,
actually just do that day to day to day, moment by
mhm,
moment. Like one of the things I tell people is create a meaningful life. And a
mhm,
lot of people say to me, that sounds great, but how do I do that?
mhm.
And I'll say, you create a meaningful life by creating a meaningful day. And you create a meaningful day by making meaningful choices, which means it's a choice that's in alignment with where you want to be. It's
Right.
making you forward momentum, progress, right? And
Mhm.
so when you make meaningful choices, moment by moment by moment, that's when you have the kind of day where you go to sleep at night and when your head hits the pillow, it's like, wow, like what a day. Like I really lived
Yeah.
today. I had a lot done today. It felt so good. And then you do enough of those days and you create that meaningful life.
So
But
true.
no, but stop focusing on the life. That's the vision. Get clear on it. We talked about that, the future, right? Get clear on it, but then bring it back to the moment. Because the only thing, if you want to create a meaningful life, forget about a meaningful life and create a meaningful moment.
Mhm.
Just by focusing on the micro, the macro takes care of itself. Know where you want to go, but only make your decisions in the micro.
Absolutely. You mentioned, I forget the name, was it Watt was the last name?
Oh,
There's
Alan Watts.
about was Alan Watts about changing you can change from 5 minutes to 5 minutes kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're
Um,
under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
yeah. So not only that, because that talks about how much you can really change about your personality or the way you basically it's the way you're positioning yourself to handle a situation. I when I was younger, I used to get something bad happened, boom, it would crush me. I'm a big Bills fan. You can see that right now as we're recording this. It's the day before the big playoff game. We're recording this before Super Wild Card Weekend, and as a kid, if the team lost, man, my whole Sunday would be rocked, right? Now my
Mm,
priorities and the important things in my life, I have a 5-year-old daughter, I have a beautiful girlfriend, I have a beautiful family. If the Bills lose, I still have that like moment of devastation, but then I go to like, okay, what can I do? Can I go read a cool book? Can I go learn something? Can I do some emails? Can I help someone out in life? Can I
mm.
take on a new client? Whatever it might be. And there's all the amazing things, how you can react to something is my point.
Yeah.
And I think it's maturity. There's the word maturity that comes into that as well for myself personally of being able to get to that point. But I also think as a grown adult and a mature adult, asking the person listening to this right now, think about how you can literally change how you think or act and do something in this moment. maybe before someone pressed play, they're having kind of a lousy day. They listen to us, mostly you, the smarter of the two, let's be real. And they get this amazing insight. And now after the episode's over, they're going to tackle the rest of their day. I certainly would hope they would take this information and apply it, tackle the rest of their day with so much different energy now.
And something to notice, with all due respect to all sports fans, I growing up, let's say I was a baseball, before I got to the track, I was a Yankee fan, born in New York, and baseball was like my life, right? And yeah, before I knew this kind of stuff, when the Yankees won, it was like a great day, great night. When they lost, it was horrible, it sucked.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that there's three types of people at, let's say, a sporting event. The first person, and they're all like fans. The first is the diehard fan of the team. If my team wins, I'm really happy. And if they lose, and it's the second person, if they lose, I'm devastated. The night is ruined. Like, life sucks right now. The third person is the person who's a fan of the game. And they might have a preference of who wins, but they're really there because they just want to see an incredible game. And even if the other team wins, they actually walk away thinking, what a beautiful night spent. Like, I had such a great time at that game. In baseball, as an example, it's like, wow, like that was like the best quality baseball game I could imagine. It went extra innings, all this stuff happened. And oh my God, the other team, like, even I'm thinking about, you could be like a Yankees Red Sox like rivalry. Yeah.
I'm a huge Yankees fan, so we're together on that one.
It's like, you can be a Yankee fan and they're the bottom of the 14th and the freaking Red Sox batter like grand slam or something. But you could appreciate that if you love baseball, and you could be like, wow, like that was clutch. Like that was amazing. In that moment, it didn't really matter that the Yankees lost. Now, all the Yankee fans right now are going like, traitor, like, what are you talking about?
I agree and disagree with that, because, and this is good, I'm glad you brought it up. What I agree with is that you definitely, it's, when you talk about diehard fans here, because I'm a completely diehard Buffalo Bills and Yankees fan and stuff. But I guess the way that I look at it now is, as much as I can celebrate a win, and I'm still extremely upset when they lose, especially if it was a game that they were supposed to win, meaning they were winning, or they blew something or internally implode or something weird. The Yankees had their moments with giving up home runs in the ninth. Chapman, I can think about the Altuve home run a couple years ago. Do I just appreciate baseball? I love the game of baseball, but in that moment, certainly not appreciative of the home run. But what's different now, with a more mature mindset, I guess, or educated mindset, is the fact that it's really dangerous. This is what I wanted to say. It's really dangerous if you allow an external factor to determine your internal happiness, is my point. So if someone is only happy when the Bills win, that doesn't say so much about their actual quality of life. Like, to me, when the Bills win, it adds to what I'm doing in my life. It's not defining who I am. When you're 15, you don't have a heck of a lot going on necessarily, other than school, your activities, and some of your friends. So I think that's why my Sunday was more impacted, because I didn't have something else to go off and do. It was like 5 o'clock, hit, the game's over. And what do I do now? Listen to sports radio where they say how bad the team was. So now it's like, when you have all this other stuff in your life that's super important, a Bills win is tremendous. You add it to the beautiful part of the day. If they lose, you kind of internalize that a little bit, like, man, that stinks. But you didn't lose. I wasn't throwing the touchdown or the interception.
Yeah.
Right. Or I didn't call the plays, and they didn't certainly call me and ask me they were supposed to draft in April. I wish they would have half the time over the last 25 years. Seems like the team's got it down now. My point is, it's dangerous to allow an external factor to determine, and sports is one way to describe it. It could be anything. It could be entertainment. It could be a person. Someone else does stuff and it makes you happy. That person can go away. Now, all of a sudden, you're not happy anymore.
And exactly. And that's why I brought the example up, because you can live in reaction or you can choose to respond. And if you're living, as you said, if my team wins, the rest of the night is great. And if my team loses, the rest of the night, like, don't talk to me. Like, I can't be around anybody. Or like, I get angry with like loved ones because I'm frustrated, that the game is over. And you are now taking on like the loss personally. And now at that point, you're allowing that situation to negatively impact your life. And it's a choice. You could do that if you want to. But in my mind, there's that kind of paradox between be the diehard fan and like celebrate like crazy if they win, and be a lover of the game that chooses to respond in such a way that if your team doesn't win, and this is like a life metaphor too, if you don't get what you want,
Yeah.
you can still win anyway. You
Yeah.
can still walk away
Go
happy.
win in the things you can control. Go
Yeah.
continue to be the protagonist in your story. Have your story, you get carried off the field at the end of your story. I know we're running out of time. I want to be respectful. You got another commitment coming up here. We didn't even talk about this, and I had like 10 questions prepared we didn't even touch on because you were just hitting all these home runs. Let's keep the sports analogies going. 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough is your book. It's available on your website. Again, it's JamilSayegh.com. And I want you to tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind writing that book. It is free, though, on your website. And I know if someone's listening to this and they like the Audible or audio version, it's available on audio as well, but there's a small fee for that, maybe $7, $10, something like that, right?
Yeah, the book is free on the website. Anyone can get that, and the audio version $7. And they're both on the website. They can get access to that. And in regards,
give us like the 30 seconds on what the book is, and then maybe another 30 seconds on what inspired it.
Yeah, and so I'll start with the inspiration side of it. You know, I met a lot of people throughout the years that they weren't ready yet for, let's say, the private coaching. They would see, oh, this is the kind of work that you do. That's great. But I feel like I'm not even getting off the couch. You know, like they're in this static place. High performance is kind of far away from that. So they're in this static place. And I thought about, all right, what can I provide to help somebody go from zero, from static, from no momentum to momentum? How could I give somebody the tools they need to actually just get into action and to move forward? So I wanted to make something that was quick and actionable and yet highly practical. Because, you know, somebody giving someone a book that's 400 pages, most people aren't going to read that. But me creating a book that is like 80 pages and each chapter is like 1 to 3 pages. You can read the whole book in an hour. You can read one chapter a day and it takes you a minute. And each of the chapters, for the most part, have something actionable. They have an exercise you can do. There's something that you can apply to your life right now to make it better. And I wanted to make it in a way where there's no excuse. And so now it's like somebody has access to something that can really help them, get them into movement, get them into momentum. And, you know, right now, because of everything that's gone on in the last year, a lot of people feel stuck. A lot of people, different areas in their life, they might be struggling. If you're looking for a breakthrough, this is a great place to start. It's got no cost to you other than a little bit of time. And so I highly recommend you dive into that and get anything you can from it.
Dr. Jamil Sayegh, and it's JamilSayegh.com. The book is free, guys. What excuses do you have? 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. I'll be picking up a copy later today. With like a minute left, we totally lost a couple of these awesome questions I had prepared for you because it was going to kind of tell. We want to know a little bit more about you, and you were just giving us a master class right there. But I want to know this: if you can be known for one thing, what would it be and why?
Well, that's a beautiful question. If I could be known for one thing, helping people remember who they truly are.
That's so
good. Because every single one of us, from my perspective, is whole, perfect, and complete as we are, and we are divine. And almost none of us know that. And so we live as if we're not. And when you live as if you're not, it's like, you know, being... I remember a mentor of mine shared this with me. It's a great little analogy, and I'll tie it in. If Bill Gates came to you for coaching, business coaching, and he had amnesia, and he didn't know he was Bill Gates, would you spend your time trying to teach him your 10 steps for success, or would you spend your time trying to help him remember that he's Bill Gates? You know, in that same way, every single person who comes to work with me, I know what they're capable of, and they're not showing up like that. And they don't see themselves as this 10 out of 10 being. They're looking at themselves as like a 2 or a 3. And helping them wake up to that, the ripple effect on that is massive. The happiness effect on that is massive. My gratitude for being a part of that is massive, but just helping people wake up and remember who they actually are, and then embody that and live it in the world so they can make the impact that they're meant to have.
So important for people to remember that it's a one of one. It's like we're not replicas. of each other. When I and social, I post be you a lot. And I mean, it's like literally, there's only one version of yourself. Like you get to be you, now you can take influence from a bunch of other people and stuff. And that can kind of alter your personality a little bit and the things you believe in and the things you're going to do. But at the same time, like the beauty in you being you is that nobody else gets to be you. Everyone else is taken, right?
Yeah.
Think of it that way. Like be yourself. Everyone else is taken mentality. And you're saying your claim to fame. It's a poor way of saying it, but like the thing you want to be most noted for is helping people get back to who they are, and then creating that into an extraordinary life without regret. Tying it back to the beginning, baby.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And that's where it all comes together.
I'm going to get you onto your next appointment, and just the audience really benefited. I benefited from the notes here. Some of the key things are identity, beliefs, actions, skills. There's so many notes here, guys. Go back and listen to it again with your notebooks. Dr. Jamil, thank you so much for being here. Any last words you'd like to say before heading out?
Just first of all, Mike, thank you so much for the opportunity to contribute to your community, for everyone who's taking the time to listen. Thank you so much. And as Mike said, go through this more than once, take notes. But again, there's no extra. If you're listening, you won't see this. But I'm holding up a notebook. You don't get points for having the sexiest notebook in town. You got to you got to apply. And so don't just take notes and listen, take notes, act on the notes, and your whole life can change.
Yeah, this is a beautiful conversation. Those that are listening and not watching, he actually held up one of those composition notebooks from like third grade with the black and white. It looks like when the TV's on the wrong channel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. I didn't know they still made those. That's amazing.
Oh, I use these religiously.
I love it. This was so much fun, an incredible conversation. I'm going to continue. I'm proud to call myself a friend of yours. And I want to thank you again for reaching out to me during a recent devastating time. As I mentioned earlier, you're just a true dude. You're a great guy, extremely knowledgeable. And I know your father's got to be extremely proud of what you're doing today, and your mother as well. This was great. And I am grateful for your time today.
Thank you so much, Mike. Be well, everybody.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKED uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.